Happy Sunday morning, everybody, and welcome in to today's episode of the Lions Grid, where we'll be talking about the Minnesota Vikings, who will be traveling to Ford Field today to take on the Detroit Lions. Of course, one of the big notes about this game, the 10-2 Minnesota Vikings are the underdogs as they are going up against the home team Lions, who are at 5-7. I want to say it's the first time in the Super Bowl era that a 5-7 team has been favored over a 10-2 team. So, with that as the backdrop, let's talk a little bit about this game and why I think uh, there's a little bit of jumping the gun, but let's dive in. And I think really the first place you have to start is it's really been a tale of two seasons for the Lions. They started out the year 1-6. They had some close games there. They lost to the Eagles by 3 points. They lost to the Vikings by 4 points. They also got absolutely spanked by New England, 29-0. They got beat by Dak Prescott in his first game back, 24-6. So the first part of the season was ugly. Understood. At that point in the season, I was saying, hey, really all the Lions have to play for is a high draft pick, and was expecting them to tank it for the rest of the season and just try and get the most they could with their own first round pick. Then the last 5 games have happened, and they're 4-1. So that's boosted them to 5-7. They're still very much in the playoff hunt. But today is a very crucial day in their likelihood of actually being able to challenge for a playoff spot. And I think this is a pretty big game for the Lions franchise in general, because I think one of the things the Lions struggle with is that same old Lions curse, right? And I think part of that comes from the fan base. Anytime a new regime comes in and they start to show signs of changing, of becoming a team that can win, the Lions fans sort of jump the gun and they anoint this team and they're like, okay, we're here now. And it always happens before the team goes out and wins the game. The Lions have done a fantastic job turning the season around, winning 4 of their last 5. But to be different than previous Lions teams, they need to come out and run the table. And it's not going to be an easy thing for them to run the table. And part of that challenge is going to be today when they take on the 10-2 Minnesota Vikings. They've already lost to the Vikings on the season. Yes, it is going to be at Ford Field, which gives them a bit of an advantage. They've looked a lot better than they did at the beginning of the season. But the Vikings are 10-2 for a reason. People say they might be the worst 10-2 team in NFL history, but they're still 10-2. They win games. They've won 10 of them. Not an easy task to get a win here. And then even if they beat the Vikings, in order to really challenge for the playoffs, they need to continue to win against the Jets, the Panthers, the Bears, and the Packers. And that game against the Packers is at Lambeau Field, a place where they have historically struggled to get wins. I think they should be favored against the Packers in that because the Packers have been hot garbage. But it's not a place the Lions get wins. So this game today against the Vikings, earlier this season, before they went 1-6, a lot of people with Hard Knocks and a lot of the hype that was getting built around the Lions expected them to maybe make the jump from worst to first. And then they went 1-6 and expectations went way down. Now that they've won these 4 out of the last 5, expectations are on the rise again. And I would just want to make sure and caution people, if you are a fan of the Detroit Lions, let's not jump the shark here. They are playing a team here that has already beat them. They have 10 wins. You look at the offensive weapons that are on Minnesota. You have Kirk Cousins, who's a very capable quarterback. You have Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. Of course, we traded Hawkinson over there. He hasn't made a huge splash yet with them, but wouldn't it make sense for it to happen against the Lions? Of course, they have Dalvin Cook. And on their defense has been one of the reasons they have been successful, similar to how the Lions have been over this last 5-game stretch, is the fact they forced turnovers. Zadarius Smith has been a beast for them. Why the Packers let him go and why they let him, how he ended up to a division rival, blows my mind, because he has been their defense was already good, but adding Zadarius Smith to that team has made them even scarier. And that's not an easy defense to have success against. Now, Jared Goff and this offense has looked good. Amon-Ra St. Brown has been, I know last week he was the highest rated NFC receiver in his PFF grade. So he's been playing really well. He had the 2 touchdowns, over 100 yards, multiple receptions. He was great on third down. There's a lot to like about the Lions, but for me, it's you have to come out here and prove it. And this is one of the best games where they can come out and prove it. They hung in there against the Bills, who are currently the number one seed in the AFC. That game was a lot closer than I thought it would be on Thanksgiving. Here is another opportunity for this Detroit Lions team to show the Lions fan base that they are taking that step forward. And unfortunately, the only way you're going to know if they are taking that step forward or not is once they've played the game. You can have, you know, you can obviously make predictions and projections heading into it, but until they play these games and we see what the outcome is, we're not going to know if this is the same thing where we're anointing a Lions team too soon, or if they're actually taking that step forward, because taking the step forward means actually winning games. Lions teams in the past have excited fans a ton. And as my father is saying, he's thinking they're going to lose here to the Vikings. He's thinking they might lose to the Jets next week as well. Doesn't think they're that team that's ready to take a step forward. But the best way you prove that wrong is you come out here, you play the games, and you win, or you don't. We're gonna find out. That's why we play the games on Sunday. But I think at least one of the nice things about this season compared to previous seasons underneath Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn is that there's at least they're playing for something. It might be a small chance of making the playoffs, but at least it's more interesting than okay, we lost this game and the Giants lost this, so now we're the number 2 pick. It at least gives you something to uh, makes the games a little more intriguing than just how high of a draft pick we can get. So one of the things that'll be interesting to see too in this game, we talked about how they were able to play a pretty good game against the Bills, but ultimately Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs were able to hit that big pass at the end of the game, set them up for the field goal. I believe Jeff Okudah is going to be good to go in this game. He has been missing practices this week with an illness. But I think they're going to be counting on him quite a bit to try and help contain Justin Jefferson. As mentioned, though, one of the difficulties with this Vikings offense is that you don't just have to worry about one player in Justin Jefferson. There's also Adam Thielen, TJ Hawkinson. There's Delvin Cook out of the backfield. There are multiple weapons on this Vikings team that you're gonna have to worry about. But the hope is, even though he has been sick this week, that Jeff Okudah will play and that he'll be able to help limit Justin Jefferson, who had a huge game in their first meeting this year in Minnesota. If he can help limit his production this time, it might help position the Lions to be more successful. Because the Lions did have a 14-point lead and a 10-point lead in that game earlier this season against the Vikings, but they blew those leads. And when they blew them, Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson were able to pretty much march them down the field almost at whim, or on a whim, and score points when they needed them to. So that's going to be, I think, the big thing is Jeff Okudah going to be able to play? And with him being sick, how well is he going to be able to keep up with Justin Jefferson? He's one of the best receivers in the league. And so even on a day where you're 100%, it's not an easy task when you've been sick all week. Asking you to keep pace with them makes that challenge even more difficult. So we'll have to see. But Okudah so far this season has been fantastic. And really, if it wasn't for how well Geno Smith has played for the Seahawks, I would say would hands down. I mean, I'm not sure if they split the comeback player of the year award into offense and defense. If they do, then definitely I think Jeff Okudah has a real shot at the defensive comeback player of the year. But Geno Smith, what he's been doing with the Seahawks, you consider where his career was and almost being over at several points in time and being a career backup to now leading the Seahawks here and doing a wonderful job. Everyone expected them to sort of die off with Russell Wilson leaving, but there they are with Geno Smith at the helm. I think if it is a shared award between offense and defense, unfortunately for Jeff Okudah, I don't think you can overlook what Geno Smith has done. But from a defensive perspective, Okudah has played much better in his third year. And so Lions fans are going to be counting on him here to try and wrangle Justin Jefferson, keep him from being overly productive in today's game. We mentioned the Seahawks, and we'll go ahead and take a look here at the playoff picture. So we're again taking a look here at the right side of the NFC. For both the NFC and the AFC, still no one has clinched a playoff spot yet. So all 7 spots are still available. But when it comes to the East and the North, you have the Eagles at 11-1, the Vikings at 10-2. It really seems like those two teams should. I'm not sure if the Vikings can technically clinch if they do beat the Lions here today, but I'd imagine these two are going to be locking in their spots pretty quick. The 49ers at 8-4. Purdy is making his first start today as Tom Brady comes to town. But I would imagine as long as he can continue to manage the game there and let that defense play the way they've been playing, the 49ers should be able to lock in the West. The South, of course, is just a mess. The de facto leaders are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now. And I think Tampa Bay is going to continue that. I don't really see the Saints or the Panthers or the Falcons really challenging for that. So uh, Tampa Bay, I guess, is going to be the NFC South representative. And then we take a look at the three playoffs or the three wild card spots, which are held by the 9-3 Cowboys, the 7-4-1 Giants, and the 7-5 Seahawks. Geno Smith right there. You can see the Lions are currently sitting in ninth, just on the outside of the bubble behind Washington. The good news is, of course, the Lions do own the head-to-head matchup against Washington. So should they find themselves tied, that would help the Lions out. But at 5-7 here, you can see everybody else in the playoff picture has a winning record. The Lions need a win today. It is important. We have 5 games left on the season. They need 5 wins, most likely, to have a realistic shot at making the playoffs. That 1-6 start certainly hurt them in their chances. I definitely don't think there's a way that they're going to catch the Vikings to somehow make it in for the NFC North. So to be competitive with those other wild card teams that all have winning records, you're going to need to. You might be able to make it in with 4-1, but I think to realistically have a shot at making the playoffs, you need to go 5-0, which means you need to win 6 straight games, which is not an easy task in the NFL. So far, only 2 other teams have had 6+ game winning streaks this season, and those teams are your NFC leading Eagles and Vikings. Those are the only 2 teams to do it. So, it's not an easy challenge. Like I said, before you go anointing the Lions as being this team that has sort of turned the corner and really become a playoff contender, this is a game where they prove it. They need a 6-game winning streak. They're going up against a division rival who is one of 2 teams in the NFL that has gone on a 6+ game winning streak this season. Now's the time. You got to put your money where your mouth is. We've seen, like I said, it has been a great turnaround. It's been a tale of 2 seasons for the Lions. The fact that they were able to, get some younger players in there and have been getting production out of them, and it's helped really change their defense. Their defense, I would still say, needs some additions this offseason to give them more talent so they can be more competitive. But the fact that Kirby Joseph coming in, Sam Houston, the 6th-round pick, you're seeing younger players contribute, help force turnovers, and then you've seen the offense take care of the football in the games they've won. The game they lost against the Buffalo Bills, they had an interception and a fumble, and then the missed kick. So if they can avoid the miscues, which is the key for most teams from week to week, and force the Vikings to make mistakes, get pressure on Kirk Cousins, and then take advantage of some of that pressure and make some takeaways. Uh, you know, the path is there. The Lions could win, but they have to come out and show us that they can. And I think that's going to be really, you're going to know when the Lions have arrived when they do that consistently. Because I think the fan base likes to jump the shark. They like to think, okay, this is the team, and that all happens before the games are played. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to watch today, and I'm going to hope to see, what the Lions can do against a team where, like I said, they're favored as the 5-7 team. I think that is a mistake from the betting perspective because, again, the Vikings are 10-2 for a reason. They've already beaten the Lions on the season. But yeah, we'll see if they can win. So this game, it should be one thing that I think is going to be pretty cool about this game is I think this is one of the most this should be one of the most hyped games at Ford Field in its history. They're expecting over 65,000 fans to be there. They have the standing room only seats again. So the environment there should be pretty, we're no Arrowhead Stadium or we're not the Seattle 12th man. But it should be a pretty rocking scene down there at Ford Field today. Um, there's going to be a lot of excitement, a lot of fans hoping that this Lions team can be the first to sort of shed that same old Lions routine and show that they are capable of challenging for the playoffs. From that perspective, it's an exciting game to watch. And despite all that excitement, I hate to be the Debbie Downer, but it can prove me wrong because so far I've only been right once on my pick 'em this season. I'm going to go with the Vikings in this game. I think Kirk Cousins and this Vikings offense, I think they find a way to do us dirty. Like I said, Zadarius Smith, he is a problem. And the nice thing for the Lions is that they do have their offensive line healthy. But I just see Zadarius Smith at some point in time forcing Jared Goff into making an awkward play where usually Jared Goff has been over this winning streak, has been very good at protecting the ball. But Zadarius Smith is just one of those guys who can force you to make mistakes. And I just potentially see that happening. And then the Vikings offense, as good as they are, if you give them opportunities, I just see them winning a close game here against the Lions. I fully agree that the Lions could win. They could win, but I'm going with the Vikings. Again, I want the Lions to sort of show me, not tell me they've arrived, and that's where we're at. This has been the Lions Grid. It's been our pregame show for the Week 14 matchup between the Vikings and the Lions. We're coming to you live, as always, on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter. Whichever one of those channels is your favorite, make sure you look up the Lions Grid and follow, or subscribe to our various channels to keep up to date with the latest episodes. Of course, we do pregame and postgame episodes. So I'll be back tomorrow on Monday to talk about the end of the game or recap the game and sort of talk about what we learned and if these Lions are for real or if it's just an, another overhyping of a team that isn't quite ready yet to push for the playoffs. But we will have those questions answered today at 1:00 when the Lions and the Vikings kick off down at Ford Field. Again, I'm Kevin Marhine. This has been the Lions Grid. Have a wonderful Sunday, everybody, and we'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye.